Everybody, how are we all doing today? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on 12OZSportsRadio.com. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. Welcome to the 89th show here. We are live in a hot, hazy Birdland, Baltimore, Maryland, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who's excited for today's show? Ladies and gentlemen, we somehow made it. We survived through the no sports, and one of the first four major sports is returning tonight, Major League Baseball. But before I get into Major League Baseball, I got a couple of breaking news segments, football related. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network at Rap Sheet reports, number 17 overall pick, CeeDee Lamb signs his 4-year deal worth $14.01 million guaranteed, 17th overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Secondly, the Washington football franchise signs second overall pick defensive end Chase Young to a 4-year deal, $34.56 million, and he's getting a $22.697 million signing bonus, and all of that, the signing bonus is guaranteed up front, so that's good news for Chase Young. And Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals and Andrew Thomas and the New York Giants have yet to sign their rookie contracts. I know a lot of other people have. Henry Ruggs was one of them on the Vegas Raiders. He also signed his deal. And so have a lot of others. Mekhi Becton of the Jets. Jalen Reagor of the Eagles. So now let's get started into baseball. Oh, baseball, we're finally back. After a long, when we were supposed to really start in April, we didn't know if baseball was going to have a season because of the coronavirus pandemic. Oh, it feels good to see baseball back on TV. And does it feel good to the naysayers? Oh, there's not going to be sports. Sports isn't going to return this year. Look at what we have now. We got professional sports coming back, and let's hopefully they finish the season, and we could crown a champion. Because I'm always in my house, my mom's like to me, oh, sports isn't coming back this year, this and that, and I'm like, trust me, it's going to come back. And I'm like, yeah, and I told my mom this morning, I'm like, finally, it's coming back. I'm happy. Yep, so let's preview all of the opening round matchups. My mom will love it, and so will all you else. Let's see. Tonight, the New York Yankees, Gerrit Cole versus Washington Nationals, Max Scherzer. Scherzer is one of the best pitchers in baseball going the Harvey Hartzell of the Washington Nationals against Gerrit Cole. And my brother's like to me yesterday, he's a Yankees fan, he's like, you're going to probably see a 2-1 pitching duel tonight, and you probably couldn't be even more correct about it. I think the Nats are going to win. They're going to raise the banner. I think they're pumped up. I know the Yankees lineup's loaded. Come on, I know that. Yankees are going to be fine. It's not going to be an overreaction if the Nats lose or the Yankees lose after one game. We know. But if they go on a losing streak in this early season, then yeah, you better start worrying and I guess kind of panicking a little bit. But not after tonight, not just after one game. You can't simply do that. But I'm going to say this. You can't simply, the Washington Nationals are in deep trouble. If something happens to Soto, who's playing third base for them? Carter Kieboom may not be their answer. Asdrubal Cabrera, that's your answer at third base. Really? Because maybe you should have kept Rendon, but I know the Washington management was saying we couldn't pay because they lost Bryce Harper to the Phillies. The previous offseason, we don't have the money to keep all these guys. Let's keep Strasburg. He gives us the best chance. Okay, he was the World Series MVP last year. Fine. We'll give it at that. So I think the Nats win tonight. There was an MLB pick'em I did on MLB.com, so I did that, and I think the Nats win. And the other game tonight, that game will be at 7:08 in Nationals Park, and I'll get to their festivities in a minute. The San Francisco Giants against Los Angeles Dodgers, Johnny Cueto versus Clayton Kershaw. Oh, this is, I think the Dodgers win easily. First of all, They're going to be out. Come on. They're due sooner or later, you got to think, right? I mean, the Dodgers can't be like this forever. The Los Angeles Dodgers, since they last won, what, 1988, 1989? Come on, they got to crack the code sooner or later. I mean, they just have to. You got to think now we're getting Mookie Betts, and I'll get to his contract extension later on in the show. But you got Cody Bellinger, you have Corey Seager, you got Justin Turner, Gavin Lux, Will Smith. You have all these guys. So I think the Dodgers blow them away tonight. So, before I get into Friday's July 24th games, here is what I saw on Scott Abraham's Twitter page at ScottABC7. That's the WJLA news station in Washington, D.C. Well, really located in Arlington, Virginia, Northern Virginia. So this is what he posted. All the fields reading this opening day schedule of events. Baseball's finally back in D.C. So here's the schedule for events. Even though there's going to be no fans at the ballpark, it will have the banner raising for the national championship, the National League Championship pennant and banner, and also the World Series Championship pennant banner for the first time in franchise history. Opening day schedule events. The opening day pregame ceremony will include ceremonial first pitch thrown by Dr. Anthony Fauci, Director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. When I saw that, I'm like to myself, oh man. Oh, can you imagine if there was a crowd in the stands tonight? All the booing, all the... I couldn't even imagine. Just luckily there are no fans there tonight. I know he's a big Nationals fan. And he's going to be receiving the pitch by closer, Washington Nationals pitcher, Sean Doolittle. National Anthem pre-recorded performance by D.C. Washington. Play ball announced by D.C. Mayor Muriel Browser. God Bless America. Pre-recorded by Sergeant Mayor Bob McDonald, United States Army Chorus. The opening day in-game elements will include the Geico President's Race will be shown during the 4th inning and will feature a previously recorded race. So, even though there are no fans in Washington, D.C., it sounds like it's going to be fun to watch on TV at Nationals Park of Washington, D.C., nonetheless. So, nonetheless, on that part, moving to Friday's games. Atlanta Braves, New York Mets, Mike Soroka and Jacob deGrom. I took the Mets in that one, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves took that one either. Braves are really good. I'm not sure if Freddie Freeman's coming back yet. I believe he's still recovering from coronavirus. Detroit Tigers, Matthew Boyd versus Cincinnati Reds, Sonny Gray. I'm going to take the Reds. I think this is the Reds' year to finally win the National League Central. Haven't done it. They haven't done it like 7, 8, or 9 years. That was when Dusty Baker was their manager. Joey Votto was in his prime. They had Jay Bruce. Brandon Phillips was their second baseman. Yeah, that was a long time ago with the Cincinnati Reds. And those are probably the only players I remember at the top of my head from that squad. Toronto Blue Jays, Hinyu Ryu versus Tampa Bay Rays, Charlie Morton. I'm a little shocked the Rays are going Morton instead of Blake Snell or Tyler Glasnow on opening day. But Morton's the veteran, experienced guy. Might as well give him the ball on the bump, the rubber for that day. So I took Tampa, but Toronto could maybe surprise on opening day. Yeah, Toronto could maybe surprise people on opening day. Hinyu Ryu comes from the Dodgers. Miami Marlins, Sandy Alcantara versus Philadelphia Phillies, Aaron Nola. I took the Phillies. Here's what's interesting. The Marlins actually had the Philadelphia Phillies number last year. Out of all the teams the Phillies struggled with in the NL East, that was the team they struggled with, it seemed like, the most. I don't get it. I don't understand baseball. It may be that way all 60 games this year. All I know is, speaking of I don't get it, someone on the Miami Marlins broadcast I saw on Twitter the other day said the Marlins have a shot to win the World Series. Who the bleeping right knows this year, okay? Because they've won the World Series in 1997, 2003. That was their only two appearances in franchise history. And the 2 times they made the playoffs, they won the World Series. 2020 is a strange year, man. And someone else posted yesterday about the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I said it about the New York Mets. All right, Kansas City Royals. I almost said the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Kansas City Royals versus the Cleveland Indians. Pitching matchup: Dan Duffy versus Shane Bieber. Really? I took the Indians. Indians got a really nice pitching rotation. I saw their pitching rotation. Shane Bieber, Aaron Civale, Zach Plesac, Mike Clevenger, and Carlos Carrasco. You're going to tell me you're going to want to face that pitching rotation in the short season? Now I question or not that I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, not because of that staff. I could very well see that staff losing a lot of 2-1 games this year because I have no idea how that offense is, and I personally think that offense stinks from the S to the K, and that's why I didn't pick the Indians to make the playoffs. As I've said, you can have all the pitching, but you still need the hitting, and you still need some bats to score you some runs. Next, and the Kansas City Royals in a rebuild, and their pitching stinks from the S to the K. Milwaukee Brewers, Brandon Woodruff versus Chicago Cubs, Kyle Hendricks. I took the Brew Crew. Here's what I'm going to say. Chicago Cubs, I think, are going to have problems pitching this year. They're going to have problems pitching. I do think the Brewers will too. But the thing about the Brewers is I believe they could rely on that bullpen a lot to win more games. I'm not sure if I think Chicago's really not very good at pitching. They may have one of the weaker. I know they got the household names of like John Lester and Yu Darvish. Yeah, I get it on their roster. But they get smacked around that pitching rotation. Excuse me. That pitching rotation gets smacked around a lot. I don't know if it has to do with the calls, or is it just they just don't have the stuff and they don't have it anymore. Next matchup, Baltimore Orioles versus Boston Red Sox. John Means, Nathan Eovaldi. I could see an upset in this one on opening day. I could. I don't know if it happens. I think the Red Sox are coming way down. I'm not saying they're finishing last in the AL East. No. That's still going to be the Baltimore Orioles. Let's not get carried away now. But I'm talking about strictly on opening day. John Means is actually was an all-star last year for the Orioles. I guess maybe it's not saying much because each MLB team needed an all-star, but John Means actually pitched decently last year. He's a good lefty, but the thing is, they got all their pitchers. Grayson Rodriguez, who's supposed to be their top pitching prospect, is still another couple years away. I maybe take the Orioles in this one, but then yet again, their rest of their pitching rotation is an absolute joke, and they gave up a lot of home runs last year. I mean, it can't get any worse. So I'd probably take the Red Sox, but I could see an upset with the Orioles. The next matchup, the Colorado Rockies, German Marquez versus the Texas Rangers, Lance Lynn. Now I see why the other night that the Colorado Rockies scrimmaged against the Texas Rangers. So Colorado could just stay in Texas rather than just, that's smart. Have a couple of scrimmages, feel them out, and then, okay, let's get to it. And probably the Rockies are going to win this one. German Marquez is actually a decent pitcher. I'm surprised the Texas Rangers didn't throw Corey Kluber. Texas could be another surprise team, but I don't think they have the offense. Minnesota Twins for Chicago White Sox. Jose Barrera versus Lucas Giolito. Now, this is a game that may be well worth watching in the AL Central market. The Chicago White Sox, in the 2 scrimmage games against the Cubs, and let's not overreact, ripped to cover off the baseball. Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, and Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal. It appears as if the White Sox feel they're going to turn the corner this year in the short 60-game season, and they have not made the playoffs in over a decade. And the White Sox feel this is the perfect time to make the playoffs, and they feel this is their time now. If they can take 2 out of 3 or sweep the Minnesota Twins, it will boost the White Sox psyche. But if the Chicago White Sox get swept, then I think they're going to be buried in for a long, short season. One game I think is okay for the White Sox, but they cannot get swept. This is the series against the team that won the AL Central last year. Their all-star pitcher Gallardo against Minnesota's top pitching rotation player Barreros. Because this is by far their top two, as in this is by far the Twins' top pitcher and the White Sox top pitcher. Because both of these teams, it appears as if they're going to hit the covers off the baseball this year. Nelson Cruz, Max Kepler, Eddie Rosario. What else do I need to name on that Twins roster? Oh, and they also happen to add Josh Donaldson in the offseason. So this matchup, I think, is the most intriguing. Along with Toronto and Tampa Bay. Minnesota, Chicago White Sox is the series in the American League that intrigues me the most this weekend. Next up, the Pittsburgh Pirates and the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, come on. Jack Flaherty against Joe Musgrove. This is an automatic 3-game sweep for the Cardinals. They could just sleepwalk and jaywalk and whatever else you want to say through this series, and they'll sweep these clowns out of Pittsburgh. Because the Pirates may be the worst team in all of baseball. And no, I'm not over-exaggerating about the Pirates maybe being the worst team in baseball. I know they're probably the worst team in baseball this year. Their pitching staff is absolutely... I don't know what word I want to say about the Pirates' pitching rotation. Let me just say this. I've seen college pitchers pitch better than that Pirates rotation. So, we'll see how the Pirates are. I guess 2020, the joke's on me if the Pirates have a good year, right? It could be one of my old, as they have on Twitter, freezing cold takes. Okay, next. Seattle Mariners, Marco Gonzalez versus the Houston Astros, Justin Verlander. I took the Astros. But be very careful about the Seattle Mariners, as I mentioned on the show thousands of times. The Seattle Mariners are always that team in baseball that gets off to a hot start. And that is always in the 162-game format. Watch them pick this year to get off to that slow start. That would be the typical Seattle Mariners, another baseball team that has not made the playoffs since the early 2000s, and that was the year they won over 110 games. The Seattle Mariners, those were the A-Rod days. That's crazy. And then this is the second game of this series on the 24th. Oh, before that, the Arizona Diamondbacks, Madison Bumgarner versus San Diego Padres, Chris Paddock. I believe I took the Padres in this one. But I believe the Diamondbacks are a better team throughout the year. And this is another series that intrigues me. And no, I know one of these two teams are not winning the NL West. I'm not that silly. They're not taking over the Dodgers. Come on. Let's be real. But this could maybe be for second place or maybe a wild card spot. Bumgarner and Paddock. And I know how much New York Mets fans absolutely love Chris Paddock. Because the truth of the matter is, they don't like Paddock very much, and Paddock's got the potential to be a very good pitcher. Oh, and they may have a guy coming up a guy named Mackenzie Gore, who's supposed to be this lefty phenom, an absolutely dominant pitcher. Maybe the second coming of Sandy Koufax or Clayton Kershaw or Madison Bumgarner. But we'll see how that San Diego thing turns out in the long run. And then the last, San Francisco, there are two more games that day. San Francisco versus the Dodgers, second game of that series. To be decided for both sides. Not sure who will go for San Francisco, but I'm expecting Walker Buehler to pitch for the Dodgers. Lastly, but not least, the Los Angeles Angels versus the Oakland Athletics. Andrew Heaney for the Angels, and the Oakland Athletics, Frankie Montañez. Let's see what kind of wizard Mickey Callaway, the pitching genius for the Angels, is. He fixed the Indians' rotation overnight. Then he was all right with the New York Mets as a manager. But let's see how it rolls out, because I personally think this year, despite the Astros, the Astros can hit this and that. I think it comes down to these two teams for the, and I think it comes down to these two teams for the AL West. Next up, let's talk about the Mookie Betts contract situation. Mookie Betts, now the heart, beat, heart, and soul of the Los Angeles Dodgers, got a 13-year contract worth $180 million. Not $180 million, excuse me. Over $388 million. What kind of ridiculous contracts do we seem to be getting here in baseball? No salary cap. And Red Sox fans have every right to be complaining, because let me tell you why. Because they said they could have gotten him for the same price. And they probably could have. Because Boston also spends money on their top players. Mookie Betts won a World Series title with the Boston Red Sox. In his 150 games last year, had a 6.9 WAR, wins above replacement, .295 batting average, 29 home runs, 80 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, a .391 on-base percentage, a .524 slugging percentage, a .915 OPS, and a plus OPS of 135. He scored 135 runs, caught stolen 3 times, had 101, struck out 101 times, and walked 97 times. And in his career, 794 games, 613 runs, 139 homers, 470 RBIs, 126 stolen bases, 25 times caught stealing, .519 slugging percentage, 843 OPS, 134 OPS plus. He's walked 371 times. He struck out 464 times. Batting average at .301 and an on-base percentage of .379. So, that's where I leave it with Mookie Betts. That's where I leave on this topic with Mookie Betts. Is that some point when the new CBA arrives, we are going to see the Dodgers are hoping to win multiple World Series titles. Let's see if they do. We're now Mookie Betts in town. Next up, now we're going to be transition, into the NBA. So there's a potential sale going on in Minnesota with the Timberwolves. There are two parties that are very interested. Number one is one long-time player, Kevin Garnett, who played for the Minnesota Timberwolves for all these years. He has investors. Glenn Taylor, the current owner, wants the franchise for at least $1.8 billion. The second group that wants to buy the Timberwolves is Minnesota Vikings ownership group and the Wolf family, Zygi, Mark, and Leonard Wolf. Those are the people that want to buy the Timberwolves. I think at the end of the day, Garnett's probably going to find a way, because Garnett has invested in that franchise for so many years. Oh, and it's also, and the key thing is they want to keep that franchise in Minnesota. Because let's see, you got Minnesota Wild, but they're in St. Paul. You got the Timberwolves, you got the Vikings, and you got the Twins. And let's take a look at their current roster and how it's constructed. Malik Beasley, Jarrett Culver, Jacob Evans, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, James Johnson, Jake Layman, Keelan Martin, Jordan McLaughlin, Jalen Noel, Josh Okogie, Nasri, D'Angelo Russell, Mari Spellman, Karl Anthony Towns, Evan Turner, and Jared Vanderbilt nonetheless. Towns, the Harpy Hartzell of the Timberwolves. There's no way that they should trade him. And I keep hearing these rumors that they're going to trade. That they are going to trade him. And that should not happen. You lock up Karl Anthony Towns and you get him his contract, and that's it. And hopefully that Kevin Garnett, whoever buys this franchise, does this so with grace and class. And I know they want to keep the Timberwolves in Minnesota. And they had the same amount of odds. They were 19-45 this year. Golden State Warriors 15-50. Cleveland Cavaliers 19-46. The number one, those three had the same amount of odds due to the new draft lottery rules. Next. So let's see who their general manager is. Scott Layden is their general manager. Ryan Saunders is the current head coach. So Towns and Russell and Culver seem to be the three players you have to build this franchise around. And all the other guys on the roster, you gotta fix that up so one way or another. There's a lot of fixing up to do with this franchise. They only been in the playoffs, one time? Under Tom Thibodeau, Jimmy Butler, they had Jeff Teague and other veterans. Oh, and they had Andrew Wiggins at the time. And all those guys are gone now. The only one left is Towns. So the Timberwolves, I remember they had to beat the Nuggets. I remember they had to beat the Denver Nuggets on the last game of the year to get in, and they did. So let's see how Minnesota tries and fix this roster moving forward. So I wouldn't say it's a great personnel-wise to own, but if you love it so much like Kevin Garnett, then you got to do it. You got to invest. He wants to invest in this franchise. I personally think he would be more into it than the Wolf family. I think the Wolf family, yes, they do run a... Here's the thing, though, about the Wolf family. I do believe they invest their time very well with the Vikings organization because I do believe that they do a tremendous job, and I agree with Colin Cowherd of Fox Sports 1, that they do an excellent job of running that franchise, the Vikings. But can they run two franchises, though? You kind of have that problem in Buffalo right now with the Bills and the Sabres. But the owners of the Nuggets and the Avalanche, it seems like though, you know what? In this kind of pandemic year, the owner in Denver with the Nuggets and the Avalanche, he may see 2 championships and you think I'm kidding. And I'm going to tell you something about the Denver Nuggets probably in just a few moments on here. So, I think the sale of the Minnesota Timberwolves, as I've said, it's not the greatest ownership group you may want to take over, as in the team-wise, but I guess it's worth the price, right? Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets, and I know he's not exactly a great owner, but he's making a lot of money. I wouldn't say that he doesn't care about the team. It's just that I guess hasn't worked out as him like he did as a player. And Kevin Garnett, I think, would be the right fit for this ownership position Next up, the NBA scrimmages that took place yesterday. I happened to watch on NBA TV. Now, I didn't know a thing about them until I was watching Fox Sports 1. And Colin Cowherd and Joy Taylor, they were talking on the show. Ooh, NBA, let me just check it out. And I was messaging my friend. I'm like to him, ooh, NBA. A couple of my friends said, ooh, NBA basketball on NBA TV. And want to know what I actually like? Yeah, they were a little rusty, some of the players. Yeah, it's their first game back. 10-minute quarters. They want to ease their way in. But for the rest, they're playing 3 scrimmages. They want the first 10 minutes so the players could ease their way back. And then it's going to go back to 12. And so the broadcasters was watching the Brooklyn Nets and the New Orleans Pelicans last night. New Orleans Pelicans absolutely dismantled them without Zion Williamson. And the Brooklyn Nets are basically playing with like a bunch of G League players at this point, plus Karis LeVert. But Ian Eagle was saying that simply, as the broadcasters, let's find a way to ease this. Let's ease this thing in back to play. And speaking of Ian Eagle, him, Stan Van Gundy, Kevin Harlan, and Reggie Miller will be the only announcers I saw on Twitter, as I was mentioned the other day, for NBA on TNT when play resumes. I was hoping Brian Anderson would be back, but I believe he isn't back because he has to call the Milwaukee Brewers games. He's the Milwaukee Brewers play-by-play announcer as well. I love Brian Anderson. He's just excited as them. But I understand Marv Albert probably can't do it because of his age. Unless these games are being called remotely. And we'll see when the time comes. Oh, by next Thursday, we'll already be starting up basketball again. So that's next week's a big week. This weekend, next week. Let's hope things are turning the corner. But you never know what's going to happen. So the first scrimmage game that I watched, the Los Angeles Clippers and the Orlando Magic 99-90. The Clippers won. Paul George made a nice move at the basket early in the game, and then a lot of guys were rusty. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Pat Beverly. You don't have Montrezl Harrell right now due to like family emergency problems. Yeah, he's dealing with family emergency problems right now. So hopefully he's back. And then maybe Zion will be back too at some point for the Pelicans. So the Pelicans dismantled the Nets as well. And another interesting scrimmage game that happened last night. The Denver Nuggets and the Washington Wizards. Denver won that game. No more by 6 or 7 points. They didn't have Jamal Murray. Oh, and this was trending on Twitter. And this was so funny. The starting lineup for the Nuggets, I hope I'm remembering this correctly. Nikola Jokic was running point guard. Bobo, Mason Plumlee, Paul Millsap. Yeah, Paul Millsap. Gary Harris isn't there yet. Jamal Murray didn't play. And then Michael Porter. I don't think Michael Porter's there either yet. And they went with another big guard. They also have Will Barton and Torrey Craig on the roster. So, and Daryl Morey, the Houston Rockets general manager, there's the big joke going around because the Rockets got the small lineup of James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Robert Covington, B.J. Tucker, and Eric Gordon. That Rockets team is... That Rockets team, I really do not think that the Rockets would beat the Nuggets. I don't understand what Nick Wright and Colin Cowherd on Fox Sports 1 is smoking about the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets. Yeah, I know the Houston Rockets have James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Yeah, I get it, they're superstars. Let's be real. Westbrook and Harden are always choke artists in the playoffs. Russell Westbrook becomes Russell Westbrook, and James Harden always fades away. And the fact to tell me, can we stop convincing me that James Harden is a better basketball player than Kawhi Leonard? And the answer is simply no. Yes, I know James Harden, he scores, averages 35 points a game. And here's where I agree with Colin Cowherd on Fox Sports 1. If it was about points, wouldn't we be talking about guys like Karl Malone instead of Shaq? And so forth? But it's about championships. So that's why we talk about Kawhi Leonard over James Harden. Kawhi Leonard's, even without it, I still think Kawhi is a better player than James Harden. James Harden, yeah, he's probably a top 5, top 10 player. But I'm telling you something right now. How can we dispute if Kawhi Leonard, or should I say whenever Kawhi Leonard gets that 3rd championship this year, and he hoists that NBA Finals MVP again in the Larry O'Brien Trophy, then when do we talk about Kawhi Leonard, huh? How are you going to talk smack on him and still try and convince me that James Harden is a better basketball player than Kawhi Leonard? You simply cannot convince me of that. And I know, yeah, this may be a far stretch, but you all are going to get on me when I say, yeah, Kawhi Leonard wins an NBA title again. That is better than Giannis and LeBron, because that's the truth of the matter, and y'all don't want to hear the truth, because you know the truth hurts. And when Leonard wins that Finals MVP again, and when he wins that championship, I'm going to come on this show and say to you that Kawhi Leonard is the best player in the world, and I believe that moment right now. That he's better than LeBron, and he's better than Giannis. And I'm not saying that Leonard is the MVP of the NBA this year either, because I know he load manages. But if Leonard did not load manage, and if he did not have these knee issues, it's not even debate. I don't even know how much of a debate it really is. Look, and I know LeBron's great at his age, and so is Giannis, and I know Kevin Durant is still around. I get it. I get it, ladies and gentlemen. But I just can't sit here and just deny. What were you going to say? Oh, Leonard with this, Leonard with that. I can't stand to hate with Kawhi Leonard. And no, I'm not hating on LeBron James either. I like LeBron. But I'm not going to sit here and just ignore the facts and not say that Kawhi Leonard isn't the greatest player in the world right now, because he is. And I know you all are going to get on me sooner or later if the Clippers don't win the title, and I'll get it. And if LeBron wins, LeBron's the best player, what are you going to say? Okay, I'll apologize and admit I was wrong. But the Lakers, and I don't understand. Yeah, I get it. That the Raptors were just as good this year without Leonard. But let me ask you a question. If they're saying Leonard isn't as valuable as they say he is, what have the San Antonio Spurs been this good still? Now, I'm never going to question the greatness of Greg Popovich. But you have to question, what kind of personnel is he dealing with? I mean, does he really have the personnel anymore? Because let me tell you something, if the Spurs don't have Kawhi Leonard, they're not 11th in the West. They're a 5 seed in the West. Absolutely. The Spurs would be a 5 or a 4 in the West if they had Leonard. And no, they're not sitting in 11th or 12th without him. You can't convince that to me. And I'm not trying to compare the difference between Nick Nurse and Greg Popovich's head coaches, which I think is downright disgraceful and absolutely disrespectful to him. What I'm saying is, I truly believe that Nick Nurse has better personnel in Toronto than Popovich does in San Antonio. I think he does. I do think that Popovich would do just as well with that personnel in Toronto. And I think Nick Nurse would do okay in San Antonio. But I'm not sure if he would have the same success, but it gives him a credit that he could win without a true superstar, even though Siakam has blossomed, and give Nurse credit for player development. And he also got the best out of Kyle Lowry, for that matter, because he does a lot of things with grace and class. Speaking of the NBA, I'm going to stay on the NBA. my NBA awards for the 2019 and 20 season. They are not counting the final 8 regular season games as the MVP and stuff like that. They are doing it before the coronavirus pandemic happened. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to get on me a little bit. First of all, before I announce these awards, let me drum roll for you, please. There we go. Time for my awards for the 2019 and 20 NBA season. The MVP for the 2019-20 season. My MVP vote goes to Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. Now I know what you're all thinking right now. LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers got robbed. Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks gets robbed. Okay. Let me ask you a question. How many people, raise your hands, for all you listeners out there, including me myself, how many of you people did not have the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs this year? I didn't have Dallas in the playoffs this year. I want to know how many of you people had Dallas in the playoffs. I didn't. I had the Lakers and the Bucks. I had the Lakers near the top team in the West, and I had the Bucks near as the top team in the East. And I know what people are going to say. Giannis back-to-back MVPs. He was on the best team. Yeah, I get it. But let's be real. How did Luka Doncic, with the personnel that he has on his roster, Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kristaps Porzingis, how did he make that team into the number one offense? Oh, because he made everyone around him better. Oh, and he could score. Because he made everyone around him better. Oh, and because he could score. That Luka Doncic is one of the best players in the NBA. And I think he's a top 5, top 10 player. Luka Doncic. Let me say this about him. 19, 20, 21? Some people are saying he's better than LeBron some people are saying he's better at his age than LeBron was at his age. I mean, how did this team have the number 1 ranked offense? They're currently in the 7th spot. In the Western Conference. So, I don't understand why you don't think Doncic deserves to get recognized. I think he deserves some first place votes. I think it would be disgraceful if he didn't get any. Next. Most improved player. Brandon Ingram, New Orleans Pelicans. Ingram started to improve. He popped this year. He's improved each and every year. Maybe it was the All-Star game this year. And the Pelicans have a bright future moving forward. Defensive Player of the Year. Now I'm giving this award to 2 guys. Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz for basically shutting down the league of the coronavirus. It basically shut down sports and made a ripple effect across the world. And then it had more of a ripple effect on anything else than Kobe Bryant's death on the 26th of January 2020. And then, speaking of the Lakers, Anthony Davis, the Los Angeles Lakers. So that's who I believe it will be a co-defensive player of the year award this year. 6th man of the year. Should we be surprised anymore? Lou Williams, Los Angeles Clippers. Head coach of the year, Nick Nurse, Toronto Raptors. I mean, he's done an outstanding coaching job for Toronto. General manager of the year, Michael Wigger for the Los Angeles Clippers. And then rookie of the year, Ja Morant, Memphis Grizzlies. It's not going to be Zion. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all caps for a deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's the first of three. And I'm going to mention about one more NBA thing before I move on. Did you see Bol Bol's headlines yesterday in the scrimmage? Bol Bol's headlines in the scrimmage: 16 points, 10 rebounds, 6 blocks. Oh, and he's getting randomly drug tested. Oh, and he was the 44th pick out of Oregon. He had top 10 potential until he hurt his foot. Remember Michael Porter Jr.? He was supposed to be a top pick out of Missouri, but had back problems, slipped to 14th in the NBA draft a couple years ago. Michael, this Denver Nuggets team, if it's not the Lakers or the Clippers, this Nuggets team, I think, goes to the finals. It's not going to be the Rockets. It's not going to be the Blazers. Those are the two teams everyone's talking about. But I think Mike Malone has done a tremendous job with this basketball club. And I think yesterday, with Nikola Jokic's reaction to scrimmage, it's funny. The Portland Trailblazers are playing the Indiana Pacers today on NBA TV at 3:30. I'll tune into that. The Los Angeles Lakers will be on. So maybe I'll flip back between baseball and scrimmages. Oh, and they're projected rain in D.C. at Washington, D.C. and Nationals Park. Oh boy, do I hope not. And then we'll see what happens across the NBA. Scrimmages nonetheless. Moving forward. So let's go on to the NHL, the National Hockey League. So it appears that everyone is going to be leaving for the bubble on the 24th of July, which is tomorrow. Edmonton and Toronto. The Western Conference teams are going to Edmonton. The Eastern Conference teams are going to Toronto. And I felt like a broken record about this the whole time. The NHL, I'm so excited that the NHL is finally back. And there will be each team is getting one exhibition game starting next Tuesday on the 28th of July. On the 28th of July, there will be an exhibition game. And it's going to be spread out amongst 3 days. And starting on August 1st, will be the Stanley Cup qualifying round. And I hope to have those previews for that round on Monday. So, everyone's taking preparations, their final rounds of preparations before they get to leave and take off. And sorry for the 7 teams that aren't going to the playoffs this year. Better luck next year when it gets back down to 16 teams, hopefully, in a normal year. So we're hoping that it returns to normalcy next year. So, everyone's going to get the off day on the 31st of July. So, and NBC and NBCSN for Saturday, August 1st through Wednesday, August 5th. Here's the announcement. So, this is the announcement for each game and broadcast. August 1st, Game 1, Carolina, New York Rangers, noon on NBCSN. Chicago vs. Edmonton, Game 1, 3 o'clock on NBC. Florida vs. New York Islanders, 4 p.m. on NBCSN, Game 1. Game 1 of the Montreal Canadiens and the Pittsburgh Penguins, 8 p.m. on NBC. And Winnipeg Jets vs. Calgary Flames, Game 1 at 10:30 p.m. on NBCSN. So that's the first day of games. The second day of games is going to feature Game 1, Arizona Coyotes and the Nashville Predators, 2 p.m. on USA Network. Round Robin game, Boston Bruins and Philadelphia Flyers, NBC, 3 p.m. Round Robin, St. Louis Blues vs. Colorado Avalanche, NBCSN, 6:30. Game 1 of Columbus Blue Jackets, Toronto Maple Leafs, 8 p.m. NBCSN. They'll flip over to that as soon as the other game is over. And then Game 1 of Minnesota Wild versus Vancouver Canucks, 10:30 p.m. on NBCSN. August 3rd, Game 2 of Carolina Hurricanes versus New York Rangers, noon on NBCSN. Game 2, Winnipeg versus Calgary, 2:30 p.m. NBCSN. At 4 p.m., round robin on NBCSN, Washington Capitals and Tampa Bay Lightning. 6:30 p.m., round robin on NBCSN, Dallas Stars vs. Vegas Golden Knights. 8 p.m., Game 2 on NBCSN between the Montreal Canadiens and Pittsburgh Penguins. And round robin, 10:30 p.m. on NBCSN between... Who did I write? Oh my, I can't see what I wrote over there. Colorado, St. Louis. That's it. Colorado, St. Louis. That's the other one. And then, August 4th, Game 2, Florida Panthers, New York Islanders, noon on NBCSN. Game 2, Arizona versus Nashville, 2:30 p.m. on NBCSN. Game 2, Columbus Blue Jackets, Toronto Maple Leafs, 4 p.m. on NBCSN. Game 3, Winnipeg Jets vs. Calgary Flames, 6:30 p.m. on NBCSN. Game 3, Carolina Hurricanes vs. New York Rangers, 8 p.m. on NBCSN. And Game 2, Minnesota Wild vs. Vancouver Canucks, 10:30 p.m. on the USA Network. And then August 5th, Game 3, Florida Panthers versus New York Islanders at noon on NBCSN. Game 3, Arizona Coyotes versus Nashville Predators, 2:30 p.m. NBCSN. Round robin, Tampa Bay Lightning versus Boston Bruins, 4 p.m. NBCSN. Round robin, Colorado versus Dallas, 6:30 p.m. NBCSN. Game 3, Montreal versus Pittsburgh, 8 p.m. NBCSN in the last one. Game 3 is Chicago versus Edmonton, 10:30 p.m. NBCSN. That is the schedule for right now. And the NHL, I cannot be more proud of the NHL and what they've done this with grace and class, with the way they've done this, trying to restart the league. And I'm very, very excited for the Stanley Cup playoffs, because when the playoff starts for these shows, and I know football season's coming soon, so I'm going to have to do some bold prediction previews in my NFL preview with you guys. Excuse me, as well. But I'm going to have to preview some NBA and NHL games as well and do some recaps as well. It may bore you guys to death a little bit, but let's hope it doesn't bore you guys to death. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, let's hope it doesn't bore us to death with sports coming back. And I'm happy about that. Next up is them staying on hockey. So, Sidney Crosby doesn't have a major injury. He's back, but he did not skate with the team. We'll see if he does tonight, play in the inter-squad scrimmage. Patrick Hornquist, Yusuf Ricola, and head coach Mike Sullivan will play tonight in the inter-squad scrimmage. And Mark Mann, 105.90X in Pittsburgh, mentioned that it was not a big deal, his injury. So it's nothing major. And then the Boston Bruins, they're dealing with injuries to, well, Tuukka Rask has an injury. Some other players do too, but David Pastrnak and Andre Case are dealing with most likely COVID-related issues, and the Bruins have not announced it because the NHL is very strict on those protocols. And it's not a surprise. It really has not been a surprise nonetheless. Use promo code 12Z Sports, all cash for deposit bonus up to $1,000 from my bookie. So finally, nonetheless, the last few minutes on the show. What is my last topic for today? Yes. So I was watching the NFL Network. So I'm probably going to do a series of this. So I figured to write down quarterbacks and running backs. So let me slow down here just a little bit. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. You have quarterbacks and running backs for fantasy. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, I think is going to be the top-rated fantasy quarterback. Second-rated fantasy quarterback, I think this year, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. Third fantasy quarterback, Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks. Fourth rated fantasy quarterback, you're going to be surprised a little bit, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fifth, Matt Ryan, Atlanta Falcons. 6, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers. 7, Deshaun Watson, Houston Texans. 8, Carson Wentz, Philadelphia Eagles. 9, Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys. And 10, Kyler Murray, Arizona Cardinals. That's how I think these rankings are going to wind up falling out. That's how I think it's going to fall out for fantasy football at the end of the day. My last one for today, running backs. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey, Carolina Panthers. Number 2, Saquon Barkley, New York Giants. Number 3, Derrick Henry, Tennessee Titans. Number 4, Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas Cowboys. Number 5, Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns. Number 6, Alvin Kamara, New Orleans Saints. Number 7, Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings. Number 8, Aaron Jones, Green Bay Packers. Number 9, Josh Jacobs, Las Vegas Raiders. And number 10, I think, is going to be Kenyon Drake of the Arizona Cardinals. This is how it's all going to wind up this year. I don't know what else to tell you. But this is how it's all going to wind up. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe I once again on this show, I hit all 4 sports in a show. I don't load you guys with the MLS and the MLL, Major League Lacrosse. That's what it is. So, I'm pretty proud of I'm just going to say I'm pretty proud of the product that I produce on here. Share my shows. I hope, listen to my shows. If I send you my replays, share them with buddies or whoever else. Just open one of these days. I get big time somewhere, either on here or maybe one of these days we take off as a radio station and someone else. Or hopefully someone bigger could find me. And so we'll see where it goes. And there's another solid show today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of time here. Thanks for tuning in to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend as well. I will be back on the air at the same time as Monday. We're going to go over some MLB opening weekend topics, NBA, and NBA preview, NHL qualifying round preview, and we will have some other interesting topics. The NFL regular season here, though, nonetheless, and we'll see where it goes. So, hope to be back here on Monday. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all cash for deposit bonus up to $1,000.
And here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last show of the week. I know it's a bummer, but this is July 23rd episode of Pete's Power Play, hosted by the one, the only king on the ice himself, Philly Pete. And we are live on 12 Ounce Sports and Zingo TV, channel 761. This show, as usual, is sponsored by MyBookie. Please, baseball is back. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Just buy me that peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if we ever get back. Let's go. MyBookie.ag. Let's do it. Use the promo code 12 Ounce Sports. That's 12OZ Sports, all one word. Get locked and loaded today. Baseball has returned officially with 2 games on the menu for tonight and 2 loaded games, I should say, on the menu for baseball. So what better way to start your winning ways than MyBookie.ag? Use the promo code 12 Ounce Sports. That's 12OZ Sports, all one word, when making your first deposit today. Once again, you don't want to miss your chance to be cashing out all these wonderful tickets, all these plays, all our cappers on 12 Ounce Sports with their knowledgeable information. Hockey is right around the corner, and of course, what better capper to get rolling in the money than yours truly, Philly Pete. So, ladies and gentlemen, MyBookie.ag, promo code 12 Ounce Sports, and when doing so, they will match your deposit up to $1,000. They also have an awesome casino if you're not into soccer, but now that baseball's back, you could do a little casino and baseball. But hey, whatever suits you is all that matters. Also, Zingo TV, they have just added 12 Ounce Sports to their list of networks. All you gotta do is really download the app on your phone, on your TV. Make sure you set up an account with Zingo TV using the promo code 12 Ounce. That's 12OZ, simple as that, and you'll be good to go. Those that already have Zingo TV accounts, you're hearing my wonderful voice. But those that do not have Zingo TV, I highly recommend it. Promo code 12 Ounce, 12OZ, simple as that. Simple as a slice of cake. And also, you'll be streaming all of our wonderful, wonderful shows that we can provide to you on the 12 Ounce Sports and Zingo TV. Once again, channel 761. Tune in now for the Thursday, July 23rd episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only king on the ice himself, Philly Pete. And here we are. So, yesterday we had a loaded card. Today I also have another loaded card. Big time. First and foremost, AEW Dynamite last night was awesome. What a great show. Those that did not watch it, please watch it last night. Cody Rhodes got body slammed into thumbtacks, which basically reminded me back in the day of Mankind and how crazy he was. Cody's matches with the TNT Open Championship has been gone so insane. Like, every match just gets better, and we'll see what happens next Wednesday. We also saw the return of Sammy Guevara. I did mention this on the show yesterday that he is due to come back, and I said the latest next week. But guess who was basically dressed up as Serpentico? It was him. It was Sammy Guevara. Obviously, it was pretty obvious after the Shooting Star press. I'm like, okay, the man behind the mask. It's definitely not Serpentico. It's definitely Sammy Guevara. Boom. Inner Circle is finally back. Loaded show for next week. Inner Circle's when we fight Orange Cassidy, Best Friends, and Luchasaurus / Jungle Boy Jack. That's going to be an awesome 5-on-5 match. I can't wait. Also, the women's division this summer, I believe it's in a couple of weeks, maybe in August, that they are having a 16 women, 8 teams, obviously, of 2, obviously. So, for apparently women's tag team championship belts. That's the word on the street. Is for they're doing tag team belts for women's. We have no idea what the draw is going to be. But as far as I know, Brandy is going to be with Allie. All the typical tag team with women-wise, besides them, is unknown. We have no idea. You see a lot of Anna Jay, which is she's also another awesome talent in the ring. Haven't seen her in a while. Is she part of the Dark Order? Is she not? It's been at least a month since we saw her, and I'm looking forward to getting her back. She's an awesome competitor. So we'll see what team she strikes on as a tag. And then also Penelope Ford, we saw a lot of promos with her in that segment too. We saw Hikaru Shida in there as well. Nyla Rose. I'm just curious to see who the remaining stars are. Possible chance that Riho comes back for this and she does team up with Hikaru. That would be awesome. But again, we'll see what happens. Penelope and a possible heel Anna Jay would be a phenomenal tag team as well. I love them too so much. So That'd be great for viewing as well. But that's something to look at as well. The women's division is slowly coming back. Also expect Britt Baker to be on the rise too. Big Swole was also out there too on that promo. So a lot of good women wrestlers, and they are making their mark for the quote-unquote Divas division in AEW. So a lot of good things coming ahead for the women's division there. Great show last night as well. It was awesome. But let's get into it real quick. The Stanley Cup odds, I want to run these down. Not much notably has changed, but again, as soon as we get closer to the start of the NHL playoffs, I want to start talking about these more and more, more updated conference, East and West Conference champs, Stanley Cup champs. I also want to get back into, I know it's been a few weeks, but the total games played for each series, the spread-free series, what the prediction of the series will be. I talked about this weeks ago on my show. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of changes in the next week. So obviously next week, next Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to talk about that. Basically, I'm also going to have a friend of mine that will come on the air on Thursday. He does a lot of fantasy hockey, so I'm looking forward to having Chris on the air. Chris Wessel, hopefully that is pronounced right. We've been in talks back and forth about him coming on my show, so that'll be fun from a fantasy hockey aspect before the season starts to get you all locked and loaded for those fantasy hockey lineups. But once again, Stanley Cup odds, real quick. Let's get into it. Arizona Coyotes 40-1, Boston 5-1, Flames 40-1. I do like that there. Carolina Hurricanes still at 50-1. I know my clients have a 33-1 ticket in there. I know I discussed that they were a contender and a top 5 team to potentially win the Cup. So, hey, by all means, I like that. That's why you got to hedge the bets here when you're taking the Rangers as the dog. It works in your favor. Let's see, Blackhawks 65-1, Avs 8-1, Columbus 60-1, Dallas 14-1, Edmonton 25-1, Panthers 60-1. Again, there's still no Minnesota Wild ticket. There is still no Minnesota Wild on these books that I have. Again, I have about 10 books that I follow, and they're not even listed in one of them, which is crazy. So the fact that you have a 85-1 Montreal Canadiens makes me think that the Minnesota Wild are probably more than that, maybe 100-1. I know when I saw on DraftKings and FanDuel, they were 80-1, but it's tough to see a Montreal 85-1 on here, but no Minnesota. So that makes me think that Minnesota is up there about 100-1. I know on most bookie sites they remove those odds, but hey, 100-1 for Minnesota Wild to win the Cup. I know it's a long shot, but hey, do it for $10. That's all. Simple as that. Preds 25-1, Islanders 50-1, Rangers 30-1. Again, I like it's a great matchup between them and Carolina in the first round. Flyers did not move, 10-1 still. Pittsburgh 15-1. They did not move. Blues went from a 9-1 to a 7-1, which is good in favor of the Blues there. Tampa is at 6-1. I believe they stayed put as well. Toronto 20-1, Vancouver 30-1, Vegas 6-1, Caps 7-1, and the Winnipeg Jets at 50-1. So again, once we get closer to the season, next week's show, obviously I don't have a show on Friday, and the season starts on the 1st. So between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, you will get all of my exclusive leans and angles. That's why you tune into my show early in the afternoon on the East Coast, and my Rise and Shiners out there that grabbing their cup of joe as we speak at 9, 10 in the morning will be getting those early odds as well. Lock in before the line moves. I'm all about that. I'm all about this stuff when it comes to hockey capping. Again, my current updates in terms of my season so far, I'm at 149.4 units. That's 149.2. Again, this has been a phenomenal season so far. 524, 356, and 16, which gives me a plus 149.4 unit on the season. Again, this is unreal. Those that have been following all my plays, especially my clients, they are up very, 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 very wealthy right now. So highly in the green. The check marks are all in green, and that's just the way to go. And also, again, I will be giving out my Philly Pete's NHL plays during the playoffs, of course. And then those that want to be an exclusive member client of Philly Pete, again, I have free packages out there to those that are interested. I'm getting a handful of people reaching out to me the last couple of days. I appreciate the love. A lot of NFL daily fantasy football packages going out as we speak, and a lot of people want both. They want the playoffs and the daily fantasy package for FanDuel and DraftKings. So again, I have 3 packages: one strictly for the NHL playoffs, one strictly for daily fantasy football for both FanDuel and DraftKings. You get both for the price of one. And because I know a lot of you out there use both DraftKings and FanDuel, so that's just the way it is, and that's how I've been doing it. And the third package, which is both. So obviously, with everything going on, obviously it's a discounted rate, and a lot of people out there are taking full advantage of it. And I just set them up this morning before I came onto my show. So welcome aboard, and let's cash out next week. And of course, once fantasy football comes around, we'll be good to go. So that was cashing out big too. So Stanley Cup odds, nothing much has changed really. And again, I will be going over all this stuff again and all my day one angles and updated angles and odds next week's show starting on Tuesday. So moving on. But first and foremost, again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thursday, last day of the week episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only King on the Ice himself, Philly Pete. And again, we are live on 12 Ounce Sports and Zingo TV, channel 761. This show is, as always, sponsored by MyBookie. Make sure you go into mybookie.ag, set up an account, use the promo code 12OunceSports, that's 12OZ Sports, all one word, when making your first deposit today, and they will match your deposit up to $1,000. You really don't want to miss your chance to cash out these tickets because baseball is starting up today. You got 2 games on the menu and great teams at it. 2 great games. I cannot wait. It's going to be fun to watch. So again, let's start cashing out with the green. What can I say? And what better way to do it than mybookie.ag? And again, soccer is back. Soccer is fully back in action. You have every league up and running right now if you're a soccer bettor. I do. I'm a big over 2.5, 3 goal guy, and that's just how I've been. But like I said, baseball's back. Soccer is back. The casino obviously is great at MyBookie too. So if you're not really in the mood to be betting baseball or soccer, check out the MyBookie casino, and it will hold yourself over until NBA comes back next week and NHL playoffs. Again, and also Zingo TV. Make sure you download the app on your TV, make an account on Zingo TV, and use the promo code 12ounce. 12OZ. Simple as that. You'll be good to go, and you'll be streaming live all of our amazing shows that we can provide to you on 12 Ounce Sports. And word is, I've been saying it all along. I guess like maybe when Seattle was even ready to be in existence, the Seattle Kraken, ladies and gentlemen. Just a word on the street right now, officially word at 12:14 in the afternoon East Coast time. The Seattle franchise has announced their team as the Seattle Kraken. I love it. It makes me want to go out and grab a bottle of the Kraken rum that they have, which is also really, really good. I've had that years ago. It's a great, great dark rum. I love it. But Seattle, congratulations. That's exactly what I'm going to get into right now. A lot of people were thinking the Emeralds. The Sockeyes were up there as well, but the obvious choice for me, and I think a lot of people out there too, is definitely the Kraken. I love the name. Those that didn't see the video, it's kind of obvious. You know, they saw an octopus in a net. You know, and they unravel. You know, they put it back in the ocean, and they unravel the horn, and it's just too obvious. It was too obvious. A lot of people were thinking the fishermen. A lot of people were thinking the Sockeyes. You know, the Seattle sound alarms, which. That's kind of dumb. But the Kraken, I know I mentioned this months ago, but once they had a team come out, it just makes too much sense. It makes sense for the Western, the Pacific Northwest, the sea, the ocean out there. It just makes a lot of sense. I love it. And the colors, obviously, will probably be blue and green, just like to represent every other city team. You know, the Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Sounders. They all have a green and blue color in them, and hey, I like it. What can I say? So, but once again, congratulations to the Seattle Kraken, the newest NHL franchise that will be starting up in 2021 next season. So I cannot wait to see them and see their jerseys too. I'm sure their jersey will be pretty phenomenal as well. So we are good to go in that aspect. But while we are on the topic of Seattle, actually, word on the street is that Washington will call itself the Washington Football Team. It's not the final renaming and rebranding for the team, but this is the name it wants to use until pending adoption of a new name in the future. Adam Schefter just tweeted this out 15 seconds ago. Right now, the Washington Redskins' new name will be the Washington Football Team. That's it. How boring can that possibly be? And now it's going to be, this is the final renaming until a pending adoption of something else. I don't know what they're doing. This franchise is garbage to begin with. And, hey, Washington Football Team. Why not? Why not? So, hey, congratulations to Washington to finally having a name, finally after waiting for this how long, just to come up with the Washington Football Team. We waited all this time just for that. Again, that's a typical Washington franchise that we currently have in the NFL. So, again, garbage name, and they're still going to be garbage for years to come. So, hey, coming up as an Eagles fan, I'm laughing at this, and I know all my friends are texting me right now saying the same thing. How garbage of a name is that? That's Washington for you, ladies and gentlemen, and they're always going to be garbage. Good luck in the future. That's all I got to say. But again, Seattle Kraken, congratulations. And the 21-22 season is when they will start their play. Congratulations again. That was actually one of my segments I wanted to get in today. And what can I say? This is awesome. This is awesome. Great news for Seattle. They finally have another sports team. Besides rooting for Seattle Seahawks and the Sounders. I mean, they're slowly progressing into a top destination for sports. And here you have it with the 32nd franchise in the NHL. And hopefully a Seattle team comes out with an NBA team at some point. Obviously, we know they had the Sonics back in the day, and everyone loved the Sonics. I mean, you're bringing way back. You had Rashad Lewis. You also had Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Ray Allen. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, it's just that team, those colors. Again, another green tint of color in their jerseys. They were green and yellow. But the thing is, another green tint. This makes me think that there will be green in the Kraken and hopefully some blue too. So, again, last call. Congratulations to the 32nd franchise, the Seattle Kraken. Moving on. And also, they will be playing at the Climate Pledge Arena. So this is something to keep your eyes on. This is awesome. The video, if you haven't seen the video, I know obviously we know it's a Kraken now, but really, really cool promo. So highly recommend seeing that if you haven't. But yeah, congratulations to the Kraken, and we look forward to seeing your jerseys and your colors and the draft. Who you take, who you guys end up taking from each team. Moving on, here we go. First and foremost, real quick, I want to get into this super, super quickly. Just an update on Mr. Oscar Lindblom from the Philadelphia Flyers. Yesterday, he signed a 3-year extension worth $9 million. We know that he was diagnosed with bone cancer in December, and we're just hopeful that he plays in the playoffs. He was skating. He's going to be good to go. But again, we'll see what happens. And, I'm happy that we linked them up. He had his last chemo treatment on July 2nd and just working his way back. So 3 weeks since his last chemo session, he is good to go. We inked him for another 3 years. Big time player right here for the Flyers. We need him big time. I was happy when I saw this news. And congrats, Oscar. And we look forward to seeing you on the ice, hopefully during these playoffs. And again, great job beating this. You're a survivor, and we love you as coming from Flyers fans all over the city of Philadelphia. You're a strong, strong man, and just keep grinding it out. Keep grinding out. So, again, we're really, really happy that Oscar signed a 3-year deal. So, moving on, the NHL qualifying round previews. Now I'm going to go over the outlier stats that will matter in each series. This will basically be the last segment of my show as I wrap this up for the week. Now, so we don't have access to each team's internal data, but outliers are generally laid out in basically plain sight if you look into the right places. You can still pick through some general numbers, and a few to point out are series advantages. The difference here is that we may see them as teams that gives up too many goals, teams that can't defend zone entries on the right side or left side, But again, it's a good point for us to many against that aren't really good. And also, when I do talk about over-unders in depth next week in depth form, when I go crazy for my capping for NHL, I am going to go over head-to-head matchups for each team in the previous 5 meetings between the two. That's also a good way to know if you want to lean over or under. It's always a good plan. So here we are, advantages and disadvantages heading into the upcoming play-in series. First off, let's start off with the Maple Leafs and the Blue Jackets here. I do have clients did receive their qualifying round matchup lock for 2 units here, and they're ready to rock. They love to play. I love to play, and we'll see what happens. But first and foremost, Columbus we know can't score at all. They've had injuries throughout the year. I know they're getting their players back, but here's a look at the bottom of the standings in goals per game this season, which included only 2 teams that made the 2014 playoff. So in 26th place, you had 26th overall. You had the Dallas Stars, 19/20 season now. Again, they averaged 2.58 goals. Columbus, 28th, 2.57 goals average. That's not great company whatsoever, and they're 4th to last behind. Of course, behind them are the Ducks, Kings, and Red Wings. So this makes absolute sense. The Dallas Stars are in the playoffs as a top 4 seed in the West, and they're bottom 6 when it comes to scoring. So expect a lot of low-scoring goals or a lot of low-scoring games in their round-robin games. But now, interestingly enough, the sort of league by goals against per game is twice as many play-in teams show up at the bottom. So, like I said, you have the Panthers, Leafs, Rangers, Wild. You just have to score when it comes to these games here. But again, it's the belief that you can bear down your way to better defense, but also not trying to create more goals. Now, not being able to score is a bigger concern than struggling to defend during the regular season. Now, if Columbus was healthy all year, I'm sure they would be higher than 28th. I think we all know that. And we just know how they are when they are healthy. They do score goals. But against a fully healthy opponent with playoff stakes, goals won't be easy to come by. The Leafs were 26th in the league in goals against this season, though from the time Sheldon Keefe took over, they were 17th. Of the 16 in play-in teams, Montreal had a worse goal differential than Columbus, -7. Again, this is when Columbus was crushed by injuries all season. Now, the NHL top 5 teams, the impact of man games lost by average time on ice of skaters lost goes like this: Pittsburgh at number 1, Columbus at number 2, Toronto number 3, Detroit number 4, and lastly Winnipeg at number 5. Now, Pittsburgh had more games lost than Columbus, had more man games lost than Columbus, and were plus 28 this season. Leafs, who were right behind Columbus in man games lost, had plus 11 goal differential. So take that as you like it. But also, there's tons of positive for Columbus. Their excellent defense left them with the 5th best shot attempt differential at 5-on-5. Leafs were 12th. And, Columbus created more than any other team in the NHL off the forecheck. Now, they have the tools to push the play out of their own and on Toronto's defense, exactly where the Leafs don't want to be at all. So Toronto's D gives up more goals against off the cycle than any team in the NHL this season. So this is why I do like a lot of overs in this Toronto matchup with Columbus. Now, the Leafs had more ozone possession time per game than any other team in the NHL, nearly 7 minutes at 5-on-5 with the puck squarely in each of their possession. Now, of course, the territory battle is going to be key here. Moving on, the Islanders and Panthers. Panthers gave up piles of goals this season, finishing 28th in the NHL in goals against. And but that's also, due to clean but concerning numbers for Sergei Bobrovsky now. Now, the bigger point is that being 28th in goals against isn't just a few saves away from being average. That's just way too much that they give up. So they survive because they're 6th in the league in goals per game. So the Isles have basically silver lining when they don't score a lot. 22nd in that in goals for going up against like Jersey, and the Islanders that will have problem. The Islanders will definitely have problem with this though. So Florida, we know, scores. We know Florida can put up goals. And the Islanders actually get filled in from a shot attempt perspective. So 26th in shot attempt differential. Ottawa allowing more raw shot attempts against in 1920 season. And then, of course, the Islanders also block a ton of shots, and which is fine, but it's also dangerously it's too dangerous to live against a team that can finish like Florida. So this is why I do like the Florida Panthers to advance in this situation. Next up, Carolina and Rangers. Hurricanes and the Rangers of New York. A few stats here real quick. We know that the Hurricanes are 11th in goals per game. Rangers are 23rd in goals per game, and of course, it's a concern. Now, they did trade Sketchy at the deadline, so of course, it keeps the levies to keep back the Hurricanes. It's just tough right now, especially with the lack of defense. Now, the Rangers' saving grace is, of course, they can definitely finish and score well. Again, another series I like to go over as well in total goals. They finished 5th in goals per game, and Hurricanes' crease is a legitimate question mark. So, again, the question is, bet the over in all these games? Philly Pete will. I'm always on the overs when it comes to Carolina and New York. So put them together, it should be like an all-out over fest, and I like it. Now, Rangers obviously have a lot to score in this series. New York's PK is 23rd, and Carolina's a top 10 power play. And also, Dougie Hamilton is healthy and ready to go. And that'll be good. This is going to be a great series. The Rangers definitely have the goalies in this series. And I expect a ton of play in New York's end as well. But they will need their A-plus performance to get the series winner over Carolina. Montreal and the Penguins. Well, here we go. This is probably the lopsided most series when it comes to these playoffs here. But you never know. Maybe it's the reality. Montreal was 19th in the league in goals per game, 19th in goals for per game, 19th in penalty kill, and 22nd in power play percentage. Obviously, we know the Penguins are better in that. They all led to a -9 goal differential for the Habs, worst of any team in the play-in round. Pittsburgh is a +28, so there you have it. Maybe, just maybe. Thing about that's been strange about the Habs all year is that they're not just okay in the shot attempt differential category. They're just dominant. 5-on-5, the Habs were second in the entire NHL when it came to controlling the percentage of shots that were taken in their games. Montreal took 53.44%, about 53% of them. And it may not look like much, but it's a pretty noteworthy number here. This means that you've got a team that controls the shots in game as well as anybody, and has a goalie with the highest ceiling than anybody else in the league, that of Carey Price. And massive underdogs for sure. We know that they're like +250 to win the series against Pittsburgh. But hey, let's not pretend there isn't a formula where the Habs could actually surprise the Penguins. Now, real quick, actually, you know what? I want to talk about the Western Conference on Tuesday. Basically what I just talked about, the outlier stats. I will talk about the West. I don't have enough time to go through it. So I'll talk about the Western Conference outlier stats I will talk about on Tuesday's show. I will get into that right away. But I hope everyone has a phenomenal weekend. This is the end of the show, unfortunately. But I will be back on Tuesday like always. 12 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Western time. Hope everyone has a phenomenal weekend. Stay safe. Stay cool, because I know it's hot out there, especially in the East. And again, hope everyone has a great weekend. Have a couple drinks. Enjoy life. And I will be back on Tuesday. Actually, I will be back on tonight as well to discuss the 12 Ounce Sports Fantasy Baseball Preview. Good night, and see ya.